hello everybody. Welcome along to today's online QDC information session, the Quantitative Developer Certificate. My name is Jeff Brown, and I've been responsible for these kind of programs for over 20 years, actually, amongst other training programs, particularly in the financial services sector. The kind of programs that I've been responsible for are the CFA, the CQF, FRM, KIA, BTRM, MLI, QDC, I mean, literally a lot of them. And I have to say, this is a very strong opinion of mine. I think that the QDC is in a league of its own. If you can find a coding program out there as comprehensive as this one, and this is a professional qualification, by the way, this isn't a university program or an academic program, this is a professional qualification, which lasts 6 months. It's a phenomenal program, and I'll come on to the tutor faculty in a second, which is very much a part of why this is such a brilliant program. The topics that we're going to take you through, I'm hoping that by the end of this information session, you've got a really strong sense and a really good feel for what this program is going to give you by the end of the 6 months, what you're going to be equipped with by the end of the 6 months. That's the objective of this session, is to give you as much knowledge as we possibly can, not just about the technical areas of the program, but how it will equip you. So what we're going to take you through, I'm going to introduce you briefly to Paul Bilokon, who's head of faculty. He's also Global Quant of the Year. We'll talk about what exactly is the QDC and why it's beneficial for you. There are 3 faculty members, which is part of the reason why this works. It is brilliant. They've known each other a long time. We'll talk about them in a second. We'll talk about the candidate profile. So are you suitable for this program? Dr. Bilokon will also take you through the syllabus in detail. I can't wait for that, because whenever he does, it's a programming, coding, it's a complicated topic area, and he has the ability to not only write about this topic in very simplistic terms, but he's incredibly eloquent when explaining about what this is all about. So I'm looking forward to that section of this information session as well. We'll talk about the study partner program, the help desk, and we'll finish off with a Q&A session. Okay, so who exactly is Paul Bilokon? Incidentally, so Ed, the questions that are coming through, I think it's worth going through those questions now.
So you've got them in the chat there on Zoom. Jay's been pasting them over.
Here we go.
But I think that one in particular we'll wait till later on, once we've got a bit more into the weeds of the actual course.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm just looking at the chat now. What programming experience is needed? I think what we'll do, we'll come to that one at the end. So that's absolutely fine. Okay, so who exactly is Dr. Paul Bilokon? Well, he was educated at Oxford University and Imperial College. He spent 17 years in the banking sector. He started off as a mere quant, and then he became a quant trader, and then he became a director, really, and very, very senior person, global head of e-trading quants. He's also a visiting professor at Maths for Computer Science at Imperial College. He's founder of the Thalessians. And if you don't know who the Thalessians are, I'm sure most of you do. They're an incredible organization. They organize a lot of events. It's an amazing networking opportunity as well. Lots of other people who work in this space form the Thylesians. It's been going for years and years. There are literally thousands of followers on LinkedIn. So Paul is one of those guys who just works and works and works. He's got lots of different hats on. This is one of them. He heads up the faculty for the Quantitative Developer Certificate. He ensures the smooth running of this program as well with his two other faculty members. They get together very regularly in order to make sure that the syllabus is up to date as well. And you'll hear from him very, very soon. Okay, so what is the QDC all about? So it's a 6-month part-time quantitative developer course with weekly live lectures globally, really. This is a global program. We have people from all over the world doing this program. It's genuinely hardly worth mentioning London in there, to be perfectly honest, because of how global this program has become. It's comprised of 5 modules, and I won't go into detail on these modules. That's something that Paul will do in a second. But it is 5 modules, 23 lecture weeks. It's approximately a lecture a week. There are assignments, very practical and applied assignments. There are modular tests at the end of each module. So you've got 5 modular tests and a final exam as well, which you can do on your desktop. The modular tests are so that we can make sure that if anybody is falling behind, then we're there to help you and to get you back up to speed with the rest of the group. So don't worry. I know that a lot of you have got, pretty intense work commitments, family commitments, and so on. Most people who do this program have got work commitments and family commitments. Some fall behind. I actually can be one of those people who help those who are falling behind put together a really solid structure of study for the remainder of the program. It is a lot of fun, this program as well. We're talking about coding. If you're on this, if you're watching this information session, you like coding. So it is actually a lot of fun as well. What's the objective of this course? It is to develop fundamental skills of quantitative developer role, and it's designed by practitioners from quantitative finance with experience in model development for derivative pricing and systematic trading. That really sums it up. The QDC faculty, there are 3 of them. They're all specialists in the field of quantitative finance. The primary coding languages of the course are Python and C++, but there is also KDB and the language Q, which is extremely important, increasingly important, which Paul will go into detail in a second. These are the leading solutions for storing the time series. It is highly, highly, highly practical. So again, I've got to emphasize this is a professional qualification, particularly for those working in the financial services sector. So it is a highly practical course that allows employees to directly use their newly obtained knowledge in the workplace environment. That really is how this course was designed. So Paul, I've spoken about already. We also have Ivan Zdankin, who is Director of Systematic Trading at Barclays. We've got Saeed Arman, who's co-founder of Turnleaf Analytics. He's also a lecturer at Queen Mary University. They're very, very well known, this triumvirate, if you like, of faculty members for the QDC. This is the global profile, and it's part of the reason why I said don't bother thinking about London, because this is really it. There are delegates from all over the world who take these programs. this program, I should say. Yeah, 80% of students are distance learning or reside outside of the UK. I actually think that's increased quite substantially. So this slide does actually need a little bit of changing. It's probably much closer to 90% than 80%. These are the candidate profiles, and this is extremely important because if you don't fit one of these profiles, then honestly, this program isn't for you. I'll just go through this list. This is how important I think it is in terms of the professional profile or the professional background that you need to have: quantitative analysis, risk management, actuary, hedge fund, asset manager, IT, quant trading, insurance, model validation, risk management, again, data scientist, derivatives, or structuring. And the academic profiles as well it's pretty straightforward: computing, mathematics, physics, banking and finance, and engineering. So I think if you fit into one of those categories, you'll be absolutely fine. If you don't, you won't. These are just some of the employing institutions for candidates since its inceptions. There are obviously many, many more than this. There are some organizations who don't like us to put their names, despite the fact that they put their own employees through the program. Some of them sponsor their employees through the program. But these are just a few names of organizations from which delegates attend the program. So the QDC journey is a 6-month one. In fact, it's longer than that because it starts right here at this information session. The program begins in October. I would say that between now and then, especially with today's information session, just pick up as much information as you possibly can. We're recording this session as well, so if you want to review the recording, you're more than welcome to do so. You can also feel free to get in touch with myself or any members of the QDC team. Apologies. Once you've made a decision, you then apply online via the registration form, or send me an email and I'll send you a registration form and I'll let you know what boxes to tick and what boxes not to tick. If there is a discount for you, which currently there is for everybody, actually. There is a discount for everyone. This is either the standard early bird discount, or it could be a geographical discount, or a discount based on what other professional qualifications you hold. So again, feel free to send me an email to find out what discount you are suitable for. Then you apply online. The admissions team, they will come back to you. We say within 3 working days. It's normally within hours, actually. So yeah, if you want a very quick response, it is very prompt. The admissions team are very prompt at coming back to you with a response. Delegates will receive a full set of course materials and textbooks before the start of the program. I've talked about the structure of the program, which Paul will talk about in a little bit more detail. The 5 modules, varying in length, all on aspects of quant development. Usually 1 lecture a week. There is homework to be done in between lectures. Not always homework to be done, but my personal advice with my experience of in recent years of this program is you've got 6 months to do this program. You're not going to do it again. Nobody ever does these programs again, whether it's university programs or professional qualifications. Anyone who's done the CFA once won't do it again. Same with the CQF. The QDC is no different. So my recommendation is to make the most of these 6 months and really to do as much work as you possibly can in between lectures as well. So really practice your coding as much as possible. If you come a cropper, if there's something that you don't understand, you get in touch with us via the QDC portal, which is an amazing tool in itself, which we'll come on to. But anyway, so you've got 5 modules, lectures, online seminars, and student faculty forum, online test at the end of each module, so that if you're falling behind the rest of the class, we will help you to catch up with the rest of the class and to make sure your knowledge is where it should be at. And also your application of coding is where it should be at. And then there's a final unseen written exam at the end of module 5. Okay. And this is where I'm delighted to hand you over to the inimitable Dr. Paul Bilokon.
Jeff, thank you very much for this generous introduction. It's a pleasure to be introduced, especially in this manner, to this audience. And I hope that many of you are contemplating joining this program, and it's about the right time, because you should seriously consider the chances of our jobs, although that would include the programming job, being taken over by, for example, by ChatGPT sooner or later. And yeah, I mean, can you perhaps tell me why you are here? Can someone, if you want to just tell me, why are you here? Why are you joining us today? What is it that you want to get out of this? Does anyone want to volunteer an opinion? I mean, that's, then that will separate the ones with the initiative from the ones without the initiative. How about that? Okay, excellent. So there is response. That's great. So response indicates that you guys have good initiative, good soft skills. This is something that you need to get ahead, because many people can learn programming, but you really want to get ahead to show that you can actually do meaningful stuff. I just finished the CQF and I would like to improve my technical skills. Okay, so I see some of you have done CQF, where the emphasis is to a large extent in derivatives pricing. And I think, let me perhaps address this. Quite a lot of quants, especially old school quants, say they did pure maths at Cambridge, they did the mathematical tribe, so something like that, did something very, very mathematical, but without significant maths content. These people will tell you that, you don't really need programming, you just need to do this stuff on paper, you just need to be a genius and that's it. Now, well, that's not true, okay, because you will find that most people who run quant finance teams, they are very experienced coders, because you end up managing both coders and you end up managing mathematicians. So you absolutely do need very strong software development skills if you want to succeed in this work. The next, so that was the first comment. I'm not going to name your names in case there is any kind of privacy issue. So the second comment, career change and job security. Yeah, that is certainly very, very valid. And I think that what will happen later on, you will find that in order to retain your agency, right? In order to retain your agency, you have to know to be able to code, not just interact with ChatGPT or with Claude or whatever LLM it is, so that you can actually specify what it is that you want. And human languages don't necessarily let you do this, and that effectively relinquishes the agency to AI, and you absolutely do need this for job security. I would like to get to the main knowledge about quantitative analysis and trading. Yes, there is quite a lot of that content in there.
Can I interrupt, Paul?
Yep.
Sorry, just going back to Daniel's question about career change and job security. So after Paul takes you through the syllabus, I'm going to take you through in a little bit of detail on the employment service we provide, which is comprehensive. It is for self-funded delegates only, strictly for self-funded delegates, but I'll take you through that towards the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'm just continuing to go through the response. There are quite a few of them. So I get the, so I want to kind of go into coding. I've just done CQF, I've done quant finance. I actually want to look at applications to trading. I would like to get to the main knowledge about quantitative analysis and trading. Yes, there is definitely that content there in spread throughout the modules. There is even a dedicated module to basically focusing on high frequency trading and how to build such systems. To find out what we will learn from the course, well, that we will cover today, so I'll come to those slides in a moment. Learn how to program for systematic trading strategies. I think we've dealt with a very similar comment. Interested to actually know how this course differs. How this course differs, I mean, there is a lot of practical stuff in there because all three of us on the faculty have written trading systems, both on the sell side and on the buy side, and we've been doing it for more than 2 decades each, I would say. I think collectively we've been doing this for nearly, I don't know, I mean, 60 years, something like that, right? So collectively we've been doing this for a very long time. So you get a lot of exposure to people who are actually writing trading strategies and so on. Some people will say, some people come up with this objection. Some people say, look, if you know how to build trading strategies, why are you teaching? Why are you not making a ton of money, and why are you not hiding this money somewhere? Well, first of all, who says we aren't? Right? That's the first response. The second one is, it's actually no, like when you are doing a lot of coding, you actually do find that it's a very, how can I put it? I mean, it's not, I mean, it's not the only thing that you want out of life. You do want interaction. You do want to share your knowledge. You do want to feel respected for sharing your knowledge. You want that, right? So I would not necessarily, I mean, this kind of idea that, oh, I know how to make money. I'm just going to hide somewhere in Hawaii and I'm not going to tell anyone what I'm doing. I haven't actually met people like that. Maybe they do exist, right? But it's actually very unusual because people who do know how to make money, they become much more confident and they do want to leave a mark. They do want to spread their knowledge. They may not tell you exactly what they're doing strategy wise. They do not necessarily want to lead to alpha decay, but most of these strategies are actually quite straightforward, right, in terms of their structure. And it's not really, oh, I'm going to tell you how to run a momentum strategy. You can work it out yourselves, right? So I can tell you how to engineer systems, and that is much more difficult to find anywhere, right? So how do you engineer a trading system? That's what we teach. It's not like, bring your notepad and just write down all the alpha signals. Interested to actually know how this goes. And I think that's what the way it differs is that we actually have people who have traded and who have built trading systems at scale. Have CQF and FRM, but want to go deeper into quant dev. I've been a C++ dev in the VFX industry for 3 years. Well, that's an interesting industry as well. I mean, it's good fun. We actually borrowed quite a lot of content from that industry. We've borrowed quite a lot of trading coding patterns from that industry. And I'm just curious how applicable my skills are to this industry. Yes, it certainly are quite applicable. So on my bookshelves, I have various books on. For example, I have it's not exactly VFX, it's game programming patterns, because I borrow some of the patterns that games developers use. Hi, Paul. I need to seriously complete my MLI project on panel data financial time series analysis. Will QDC help me, Paul, or is it beyond? Okay, well, you're already doing MLI, right? That's great. So it will certainly help you, but I wouldn't defer your project to the end of this course. I wouldn't defer your project to the end of the QDC course, right? I would advise you against that. I would say that you probably have some development knowledge to do this, and you are not, like in MLI, you are not really asked to build a production system as part of your project development. You are not really asked to build, something that works end to end, and works 24/7. This is why your code in MLI doesn't have to be of production quality. Yeah, so your code just needs to be clean and be doing what you claim it's doing. Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily call this a prerequisite. A lot of the stuff that you are taught here is how do you build a trading system that is reliable, that can run 24/7, that that produces a research pipeline that that you can plug into your production, that kind of thing, right? So for the MLI project, which is a pure research project, you don't need that. Okay, you need something that we don't even look at your code that much in MLI. We just look at the data, the graphs that you produce, the theories that you produce as a result. And right now, this is the last comment: how much knowledge is needed in C++, Python in general? Okay, so Python and C++ will be taught from scratch. They will be taught from scratch. We do not assume that you are like a C++ dev, like a mid-level dev, but it will go very, very quickly. The tempo, the rhythm of the program, it's quite a snappy program. So it will assume that you don't have prior knowledge, but then it will really throw you into deep water. That it will do. Are fix and non-fix part of the curriculum? So we don't, like, it's not like something that makes you a fix engineer. It's not like we're going to drill the fix spec into you over the 5 modules. Yes, fix is mentioned in the curriculum. We show you what fix is, how to deal with it, but it's not like the entire thing is dedicated to fix. Okay, we give you enough content. We show you how to connect to venues, right? We tell you what fix is, but it's not like you can, once you have the information, you can then go and look at the fixed spec and you can implement it. I'm already done MLI. I need to make it publishable quality. Will QDC help? No, well, if you want to make it publishable quality, and again, the code behind a lot of research papers is not production quality. Okay, so if you look at a lot of code, if you go to papers with code, like it will be significantly weaker than the quality of the code that we teach here at QDC. Okay, so again, I'm saying that it will probably help. It certainly does help you with, understanding the code, but it's not a requirement for publishable results. Okay, just to give you some background, a lot of people publish papers and they're not very strong coders. They would not be hired into quant dev positions. Would like to enhance quantitative model development knowledge. Yes, there is an element of modeling, but this is not really what this course is about. It's not like a heavy modeling course. If you want to do modeling, join MLI, right? And especially if you want to do machine learning type modeling. Modeling is mentioned throughout the course. There are examples of modeling, but not necessarily, we focus on implementation. We focus on coding. At this point, I think that I've answered quite a few of your questions. Maybe we go to the next slide, and we will talk about what are the modules in this program. What specifically are you guys going to be looking at? So we'll start with Python, simply because Python is the easiest language to pick up. You do learn some bad habits when you pick up Python. And we'll address that. But we start with Python. It's the easiest. If you haven't coded already, that's where you get to code for the first time. Python is easy to pick up, and especially we show you the Python ecosystem. We show you NumPy, we show you Pandas, we show you Matplotlib and Plotly, and so on. We show you how to connect to Bloomberg. We show you how to get data from Quantal. We begin to really do financial programming. We begin to really do programming, the kind of programming that you need in finance, the kind of programming that you need to apply your knowledge to finance. I'll address some of the other questions that have just appeared. Will the course be useful for someone from academia? Yes. With a theoretical physics background? Yes. So as far as preparation for quant jobs goes, theoretical physics background is really good, because so what happens, for example, in maths, right? So you do pure maths as opposed to physics. A lot of the math that you learn is going to be discrete. Whereas nowadays, a lot of the kind of analysis that you do in quant finance is either statistical or continuous. Now, when you say theoretical physicist, you are probably specializing in one of many different things. It would be interesting to know what kind of theoretical physicist you are, because many people use stochastic analysis, right? It's kind of standard. The language of stochastic analysis is standard, and this is what you get in classical mechanics. You get it to a lesser extent in nuclear physics. You get it in fluid dynamics, but what happened is maybe in the 1980s, 1990s, a lot of people who joined quant finance, including Paul Wilmot, were fluid dynamics people, right? So a lot of these people were experts in solving various types of PDEs that modeled fluids, so liquids or gases, right? And you tended to do that by solving partial differential equations. And there is still quite an element. Okay, so you are a string theorist. Okay, well, like as a string theorist, you will have quite a bit of background in mathematical formalism of different kinds. So the kind of formalism you get in string theory is going to be closer, I would say, to stochastic analysis, to measure theory, and um, to things like quantum mechanics and so on, and various applications. It will be useful, but you will have to pick up some stuff. Now, if you want to do derivatives, then you'll have to do stochastic analysis. If you want to do kind of more trading stuff, it's mostly stats, right? The kind of modeling that you get in stats is more similar to what you get in statistical physics, statistical mechanics. Okay. But at least, as a string theorist, very few people actually use string theory in finance. If you want to write a cool paper on, this is how string theory relates to pricing barrier options, you can do that. But most people, again, will be, statistical mechanics or just stats, just straightforward stats, elements of statistical learning. That's the kind of book that you probably want to pick up, right, if you want to look at the mathematics of it. But the way you implement it, you will be writing code in Python or C++ to do this. So, and in this course, we focus on implementation. Do we get access to recorded lectures for lifetime? Yes.
Not only that, but also you have access to all future QDC cohorts. Okay, so as well as the lifelong learning like you get on the CQF. So it's all the same with the QDC as well.
Actually, with the way that we do it now, with the new the flipped classroom style, we replace the old videos with the new videos. So if you go back and watch an old video, it will have become the new video.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, while there is a hiatus in the messages in the comments, I suggest we move on to the next module. Module 2, which is KDB. And again, you would say, well, why are we learning KDB? It's a niche product and so on. Yes, it is, but it does increase if you want to become a consultant, it increases your consulting value. It increases the amount that you can charge because you are an expert in a niche product. It enables you to work with big and high frequency data and including data arriving in real time. And if you don't want to become a consultant, but if you want to follow a more traditional career path in a big organization, what it does give you, it gives you the ability to quite quickly understand the company's data, to run some queries to understand where the P&L is coming from, where the efficiencies and inefficiencies are coming from, so you can perform fairly sophisticated financial analysis. And you will be surprised, you can join a big bank and people won't have a clue about how profitable it is. Right, so it can be quite scary. Okay, I mean, like it's if you join an organization and you go to the head of fixed income, for instance, and that head of fixed income relies on people telling them anecdotally how things work, like how successful things are, right? And that can be quite scary. Right, so you won't be that person. You will be the person who actually knows how to compute the company's P&L in real time. You know how to attribute it. You know who's actually contributing to this P&L, right? So that makes you a very dangerous person. So you will be either got rid of, or you'll become extremely successful in your job. Okay, so, and depending on how you play it, I think you do have some leverage as to, which of these paths will happen. So I mean, like, having this kind of knowledge of KDB systems, and most banks use KDB and most hedge funds use KDB, enables you to really understand what's going on, right? And many people, what will happen is, like, I remember I was at one of the banks, not to be named, when people realized they could actually run these queries. My boss used to call me to his office and say, like, "Hey, how are we doing?" And I said, "Well, this is how we're doing. This is what's happening here. This is what's happening here. This is what's happening here." He goes, "I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do all this KDB stuff, but like, I mean, like, that was very, very helpful skill, because, like, I could tell my boss what the P&L was in real time, and that made me dangerous in a sense, but also made me at least temporarily indispensable. Okay, so that's a useful skill. Yeah, KDB is still it's a massive differentiator. It makes you uh, much more scarce, if you like, as talent on Wall Street and in the city. We can go, I think, to module 3. That's C++. Okay, so if you want your code to run fast, right, you write it in C++. C++ was originally designed to run stuff like spaceships and marine diesel engines and airplanes and stuff like that. It displaced Fortran to a large extent. And now people say, we just need Python. We don't want to code in the C++. We need Python. But the point is, Python is quite slow. Right, and you can optimize Python to some extent, but it's mostly your research code is in Python. Is KDB not being replaced by Snowflake in financial services? It is being replaced, and it's been the case since 1990. Actually, 1993. Every year, someone says, we will replace KDB with X. Just replace X with something. It could be like what it could be. What could it be? ClickHouse. It could be Shakti. It could be, which is founded by the same people as KDB. It could be just some SQL database. It could be DuckDB. It could be Redshift. It could be InfluxDB, and so on and so forth. And they kind of claim that's the end of KDB, and it never really happens. And this has been going on since 1993. So there is always a contender out there to replace KDB, and it's been going on for decades. Okay, so, and it still hasn't been replaced. So I think that's the data point that you may find useful in this kind of analysis. C++ again, C++ has existed for longer than 40 years. And people say, that's it, C++ is finished because it's Java now, or it's C# now. We don't need C++ anymore. People have been saying this for 40 years, in a sense, even longer than, like this. I think it was Mark Twain who said that, the rumors about my death have been largely exaggerated. Okay, so the rumors about the death of C++, the death of KDB, they tend to be exaggerated, right? And this has been going on for a while, so people mourn these things, people come in, like, in mourning clothing and say, oh, yes, that's it, C++ is finished. But, even Björn Strustrup is doing well, right, and who designed C++, right? So yeah, I think you don't want to kind of this has been going on pretty much as long as the financial services industry has existed, right? I hope this answers your question. So we can go to the next slide, and that's going to be, well, data structures and algorithms in C++. This is, to a large extent, if you can program custom data structures that can make or break your desk, especially if you are in an HFT. Quite often you say, well, look, this hash table is too slow, and it could be a differentiator. We could write a custom data structure for our needs, and then you need to understand the big O notation, complexity. You need to understand time complexity. You need to understand space complexity. All this stuff, you need to really understand it so that you can build your if you think about it, pandas is a data structure. Okay, NumPy arrays, that's a data structure. Okay, so and they have really changed the way people work, because before pandas, every person at the desk wrote their own mini little pandas, which was really bad. And they spent a lot of time maintaining it, and they couldn't really do any meaningful analysis because of the time spent on maintaining the mini pandas. Okay, so this is often the case with other data structures. And data structures are central to computer science, and they're central to computer engineering. So that's module 4. Maybe, okay, so maybe we can go on to the next slide. And there we see module 5. And I normally teach module 5, and I talk about how to build trading systems. I introduce you to HFT style programming. How do you code high frequency systems? What are the tricks of the trade? I have a number of papers in public domain. So yesterday, a major HFT player, they were quite shy about. I'm not going to name their name. I'm not going to basically say. They said, like, Paul, I mean, you wrote all this stuff in HFT. Could you talk to our guys about it? And I was shocked because I thought they were like leaders in HFT. You guys are asking me. I thought, like, well, that's unexpected. I mean, I didn't expect you guys to actually. I thought that you guys knew all this. They said, well, no. We want you to talk to our guys. Like to explain how how to, this paper that they said that mentioned the design patterns for HFT, which are not really published anywhere else. By the way, that paper was on the top of the register. Right, so it was on the top of the register, and if you're a hacker, if you're a programmer, that's a big thing to you, right? That most people, like, so say you go out on a date and you tell your partner, I've been at the top of the register. They will not or Y Combinator, right? So that was at the top of Y Combinator as well. They will say, well, okay, but to the initiated, those of you who have been, who have passed the secret degree, the sublime degree of master programmer, that you will know what this means. And to you, it's a big thing, right? So you can enlighten your partner. You can say, this is a big thing. Um, and um, and that's the honest answer here. I mean, this is the kind of content that no one really wants to teach. There were, like, maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, there were 2 of these things on YouTube. There was a video by Carl Cook. There was a video by Nimrod Sapir that you could look, and that was it. So beyond the stuff that we teach, and this was one of the first places to systematically address HFT development, HFT software development, low latency development, there was really nowhere to learn this. And we also learned another thing that is very, very rare to see anywhere. Is how do you build an enterprise? How do you build enterprise systems? How do you build something like, for example, Markets Electronic Trading, which used to be a division of Deutsche Bank? How do you build that? Okay, and that's the kind of stuff that we address in this module. Module 5 is the last module. I don't know if I have to say anything else. I think it's over to Jeff now. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for listening.
Paul, thanks very much for that breakdown of the syllabus. The study partner program is incredibly effective. If you are working for a particular organization and you want to study with somebody from that organization who may be working at, if you're based in, I don't know, in Italy, and you want to study with somebody based somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the Middle East, or even, although the time difference wouldn't be so good if you want to study with somebody in America, that's not a problem. So we can put you in touch with whoever from your organization is also enrolled onto the program. Similarly, from your country or your region. I think this is a great way of tackling this program, is to study with somebody from your country or from your region. Or if you want to study with somebody working in a similar role that you're working in, or if you want to study with somebody who's working in a role that you want to move into, then you can get in touch with us, and we'll put you in touch with the right people, and we'll ask if they also want to study with you too. But it's a really good way of going through this program, especially a coding program, to find a study partner for it. There is the help desk, which is the forum, the QDC forum, where you get all your faculty support. This is also, incidentally, a space where you can share anything you like with anybody else who's on the program from around the world. So if you've seen something on, I don't know, on X, as it is now known, which you find interesting and which relates to this program, you can share it on the forum. And what that tends to do is it encourages a discussion, which is great, or even a debate, which is even greater. The QDC forum is brilliant. If you've got a question, if you're unsure about any aspects of the syllabus, or if there's a particular topic area that you're going through that you're really struggling with, then you post your question on the help desk and a faculty will come through to you very, very promptly. Okay, we've got some questions as well. Let's see. So for discounts, there is somebody who's asked about a discount. They've got the CFA and the CQF, and I've responded, you can send me an email, which is, I'll put it in the chat actually. I don't know if this appears in the chat. I hope it does, but if it doesn't, then it's geoff@wbstraining.com. Okay, so if anybody wants to know how these discounts work, then just send me an email and I'll explain it to you. Okay. Paul, I don't know if you want to take on the question from Taiwo.
So it's usually, we do have office hours as part of QDC. It's rarely on campus at Imperial. I'm kind of all over the place. I mean, I kind of travel quite a bit. So I mean, sometimes I'm indeed. You're referring by SW7. I assume you're referring to Imperial College hours. Usually it's remote. Because I'm in SW7 on the days when I lecture there. But I also have an office in Germany. I have an office in the city. I have an office in Canary Wharf. So I'm kind of in between different offices. So there is quite a bit of travel involved in my part. But I mean, normally we do this remotely, depending on where I am. But I mean, if you know that I'm in SW7, if you want to meet in the SW7, I cannot guarantee that I'm going to be in SW7 at the time, but we can possibly meet. Yes, if I'm there.
Superb. Okay, can I start the program at any time, given lectures are available online, and then take the exams when ready? No, this is one area. So the QDC starts in October, and the final exam date we haven't set yet, but it will be sometime in April. So yeah, the exams are on a set date. Everybody takes it at the same time, and you basically do it on your desktop. Okay, booking office hours, that's fine. Office hours aside in Mile End, shouldn't be a problem. Yep, I don't think that's a problem. So it would be a case of getting in touch with us in order to arrange a meeting with Saeed as well, Taiwo. Okay, so that's not a problem. Okay, let's.
It will be similar situation. It's much preferable to do it in the normal office hours, which we do online via Zoom.
Sure.
And then obviously it will be up to the lecturer in question.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, no problem. The QDC Employment Service, this service is for self-funded applicants only. That's extremely important. And it is an incredibly comprehensive service for the simple reason that we've actually been a quant conference company for over 20 years. And our next quant conference is taking place in Palermo in Italy. They take place at all these exotic places every year. Last year it was in Nice. You get all the top speakers, and I really mean this, the top speakers who attend these conferences every year, because we know them extremely well. So because of all these quant conferences, this is one avenue where we have a huge network of people who have attended these conferences over the years, and we have extended relationships with those who have attended. Many of them attend every year anyway. I myself have an enormous network of contacts because I was part of the CQF team for 9 years, where I delivered presentations with Paul Wilmot, and I had very specific roles with the CQF, which included helping them to find a job, the self-funded delegates to find a job. So my network extends to desk heads, quant desk heads the world over, and I use those contacts in order to help QDC alumni land the jobs that they can. But generally speaking, we are a quant conference company. We are a quant education company as well. Paul mentioned the MLI a little bit earlier in this presentation, the Machine Learning Institute certificate. So we do have a massive network of contacts. Now, the way it works is that once you've graduated, and hopefully you can graduate with a QDC distinction, that would be great. But once you've graduated, not only do you have the knowledge and skill set to be able to go to an interview and show your stuff, but also we can help you. So you basically, the very, very first thing that we do is make sure that your CV is up to scratch. Because if you go on to LinkedIn and you just search for a quantitative developer vacancy, you might have 10, 20, 50 people applying for this one job. So we need to make sure that your CV is ahead of the field, that it is absolutely up to scratch, and also that the opening paragraph relates not only to the job spec itself, but also to you and your objectives. So we help you with that. We help you to make sure that your CV is not going to go on the bottom of the pile. That's the very first step. We also get you face-to-face time and interviews with those who you want, those who are heading up teams within which you want to work as a quant developer, for example. And we also help you in your own search for a job. So don't just rely on us. You need to do all the work on your own as well. And when you do look at a job spec, you need to find out, you need to do as much reading and research as you possibly can on that job spec, not only on the organization, but also how does that job fit in to the team as a whole. Try to get in touch with the recruiter. You can normally see, or sometimes you can see the name of the recruiter. Try and get in touch with them. So it is extremely comprehensive. Once you've done all the reading and the research that you possibly can on each job spec, then it's the interview stage, and that's where we help you as well with interview guidance and interview technique and so on. The other thing is, the more work and research you do, again, to get ahead of the field of the other candidates, the more questions you'll have to ask. And these won't, because they just pop up. The questions just pop up. And these are not questions. Try not to just write down questions to please whoever it is that is going to be interviewing you. Write down questions that you genuinely want to know about, that you're genuinely curious about. In the last 6 to 12 months, what have been the biggest challenges for this organization? How has that affected this quant development desk? Is it still affecting the quant development desk? If they're to choose you as the candidate to fill the role, will it affect you? And if so, how? All these things we help you with and within this QDC employment service. Again, a couple of questions. So are we going to mention self-paced? There is a self-paced course as well, which is less expensive than the full QDC course. You don't have access to I suppose the main difference is that you don't have access to the live lectures and the live faculty, if you like, but it is self-paced. It is less expensive than the full QDC course. For some of you, the discounts available will make the self-paced course not worthwhile, actually. You might as well make the most of everything that's available with the full QDC course. But if you do have any questions about this, again, send me an email or you can get in touch with me by phone and I'll put the number down. You can reach me on WhatsApp, which is +33 6750 69328. Okay, and that way you can ask me any questions about either the self-paced course or the full QDC program. Okay, and we have reached the end there. If anybody has any other questions, then please feel free to ask. This is the best time to do so. And incidentally, in the coming hours and days and weeks and so on, if any questions pop up, then please, send us an email or get in touch with us directly as well, because there's always going to be one or two questions that pop up after this kind of event. Any more questions? No. So would you say the self-paced course is better suited for someone who is working full-time already? No, I don't think it is. Otherwise, it would be, it would often, it's pretty much everybody who does this course is working full-time. So it's not as good as the full course, that's for sure. That's why there's a price differential as well. But maybe for you, it's also up the individual's choice. So if you think that the self-paced course is enough for you, in terms of acquiring, the objective is to acquire as much knowledge and the skill set in particular for coding as much as possible. Now, if you think the self-paced course will do that, and you're able to apply what you're learning with a self-paced course as frequently as possible, then maybe it's for you. Okay, so we've got some other questions. Is this course enough on its own, or do I need domain knowledge such as algorithmic trading course? That does help. There's no question about that. There are those who do both the ATC, the algorithmic trading course, and the QDC. That's specifically if you want to get into algorithmic trading. For that, if you do a programming course, you need to have programming skills in order to do algorithmic trading. That can be an incredible combination, actually. And we do have delegates who do both courses. Could you explain the assignments and the final exam, how we will do it? Paul, over to you.
Yes, so the final exam has a very similar format to the module exams. It's multiple choice, but it's administered over an environment called Proctor. So it's more formal in the sense that you're being watched by the big brother, in case you are, I don't know, have a little, I don't know, ChatGPT driven parrot that, I don't know, advises you on certain coding techniques. That is prohibited, right, in the final exam, and that is kind of monitored. But I mean, ultimately, it's a multiple choice question exam. There's just a lot of them. And by multiple choice, I don't mean easy. If you guys have ever done GREs or GMATs, you will know that, right? I don't need to necessarily tell you that. You just need to do reasonably well. I mean, you don't need to score 100%. In fact, if you're aiming for 100%, I would question that. Why are you doing that? If I remember correctly, the to get the distinction, you just need to get above 70% in this exam. It's doable if you have, but it covers the entire scope of the course and even beyond. Right. So, if, for example, if some of the lecture slides hinted at, FPGA computing, there could be a question of FPGAs. Right. So, if some if some set of slides mentioned, for instance, um, certain type of tree maps, there may be a question of tree maps, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to come from the directly from the lecture notes. We basically test how widely you've read around it, how you can apply these ideas, but it's multiple choice. So usually you can use logic to rule out some of the answers, whereas perhaps overweight some of the other answers. That's how it's set up. It's just quite a lot. I can't remember how many. I think it's something like 20 questions per module, or something like that. It's a fairly long exam, but if you're really comfortable with the material, it's not going to be a problem.
What percentage is Python and C++?
What percent? It's the in the exam. The percentages of the questions are basically every module is equally weighted. Just remember there are basically two modules on C++. There is the module on C++ per se, and there is a module on data structures, right? So it's the same structure will be reflected in the exam, right? So you can think about it's 20% Python, then 20% core C++, 20% C++ with data structures. Then it's going to be 20% KDB and 20% the practice of building electronic trading systems and the yeah and HFTs. Jeff, just think we can see your screen now with the Python quant. Is that intentional? Yeah, that's
Eve
intentional.
Hilpisch's course that I'm bringing up for you. So it's the Python quant course by Eve Hilpisch. Okay.
That's CPF, right? That's CPF.
That's right.
Yep.
And so what are the differences? Could you give a comparative with respect to Eve Hilpisch's course, which is this one?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I haven't really done this course myself, really haven't studied it in great detail, but I mean, I can tell you that Hilpisch's stuff is usually quite good. So I'm not going to diss it, even though we're probably competitors in this field. He has written several really good books. Our book with Jacquier and our book is just a second. So our book is about to be published as well, very, very soon. On Python. So I'm about to publish a book on Python, so that's on data science and quantitative finance applications. But I would say, Yves knows what he's doing when he has a good brand. I don't really have intimate knowledge with the course. I mean, I like his books. I cannot really tell you more because I haven't had very intimate exposure to his course. I would yeah.
I know Eve quite well actually, and he is essentially a Python expert. So it's primarily Python that he focuses on. So I think in answer to your question, where Eve's course is going to be mainly Python. Our course is going to be Python, C++, KDB, Q.
We don't kind of, Python, again, if you think about it, is 20% of the curriculum. Right, we do come back to it, like when we talk about trading systems, there will be further examples of Python and so on, but it's not a Python course, right? It's because we think there is enough Python content out there, right? So that I don't think based on what we understand about, your preferences, or if based on what we understand about the market preferences, they're not really tied to Python in the way that perhaps they were back in 2010. Right, C++ has had a massive resurgence. KDB has had a resurgence, and it's not like, oh, you just need to learn Python. I mean, I don't think this is the story anymore. And I think like if you come to programming conferences, if you kind of go to offsites like business offsites, you will find that that's often the case. I was recently hired to rewrite a Python electronic trading system in C++ because people faced limitations in speed, right? So I'm not going to mention the company that hired me, but I was hired to do that, and there was appetite to move from Python to C++. So I would say this is a very balanced program that looks at these different technologies, that kind of carefully weighs their merits and demerits. That's what I would say.
So you can do the self-paced course immediately. That's one advantage of this. You can do that immediately rather than waiting until October. Any chance you could briefly compare CQF versus QDC versus MLI versus Eve's QPF? I don't think we should talk about Eve's QPF because we don't know enough about it. But the CQF there's a lot of derivatives pricing in there. You've got they've added on a couple of machine learning modules in the last, 2-3 years. They're trying to make it more machine learning as they move forward. It's very different from the QDC. The QDC really is about programming. And the MLI, it's about machine learning. So it's, they're three extremely different qualifications.
I'll probably add to this. I started off as an exotic options quant, and I started off as that in, I think, 2005, right? And then sort of in 2008, when the crisis happened, I was thinking, am I going to ever get a job? And sort of and I did. It was just like, it's a very different vibe, basically, right? So you were on top of the world. You had a very, very prestigious, very highly paying job. You had people make films about you, say like traders are like the future, like, and stuff like that. That's what everyone wanted to do. Everyone wanted to be an exotic quant because it was just glamorous. Now, as scientists, we don't necessarily go for glamour, but it was kind of cool. It was a cool thing. You used to go to parties, and you used to say, "Well, I trade exotic foreign exchange options," right? And everyone would be all over you and would say, "Oh, wow, this is like really, really cool. That's like amazing. That's like," and then it started to abate. And if you're kind of used to being kind of in demand. Like, I'm not even going to say that it's not even so much about being glamorous, it's about being in demand, right? And that kind of starts to wane, and then people say, well, what are options anyway? What are exotic options? We've never heard of this. That was the reaction that I now faced from, when I tried to sort of say, oh, I'm an exotic quant, and people just said, okay. And this is where, but HFT and electronic trading was becoming very popular at the time. So that kind of survived the crisis. That kind of came out of the 2008 stronger, because people still had enormous sharps in HFT and so on. So if you wanted to, it's very difficult to admit being uncool after you've been like a cool kid. It's very difficult, right? So you kind of go like, oh, okay, I'm now irrelevant, and like you just don't just go like and say, oh, okay, now I'm irrelevant, so no one cares about what I do, and so on. It's not what you do. You kind of reinvent yourself, right? And as a quant, I think that because of the industry, because of what the industry does, you don't want to get tied to any particular thing. You don't want to be tied like to, I'm like a GPU guy, or I'm like a Python guy, or I'm a KDB guy. Don't do that, right? Just be ambiguous about what you do, because you may have to reinvent yourself, right? And you may have to do it quickly. So this is what we actually teach in these programs, is how to think quickly, so you don't actually get married to this technology, right? You don't want to be like basically in bed with C++, for instance. Well, some people are, right? But this is a very risky choice, right? Because like C++ may cheat on you, right? I mean, it's a very good relationship to have. But I'm not, by the way, I'm not promoting immorality here. I'm just promoting pragmatism. Okay, just have a few of these things. You don't know whether C++ is going to be there forever. You don't know whether Python is going to be there forever. You don't know whether KDB is going to be there forever. You just want to have a flexible skill set, which is kind of one meta level above it. You kind of know how to pick a technology that you need. That kind of thing. You know how to juggle these technologies. You know how to move from one to another. That's the level of skill set that you want. You want to be one level above the technology. You should basically, your value as a technologist or as a quant dev should not depend on what the market is currently doing. You should be in demand regardless, right? I mean, people like Nouriel Roubini have found a universal solution to it, because like according to Nouriel Roubini, we're always going to doom, right? Everything is going to be destroyed very soon and so on. And he's always right, because anytime there is a catastrophic event, he said, well, I told you so. Right now, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to do the Nouriel Roubini of this. You just want to be like, well, I have a number of these technologies. Yeah, I can program in C++, I can program in KDB, I can program in Rust. If ChatGPT takes over, I'll program ChatGPT. I'm going to set up ChatGPT. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to architect things. That's what you want to do, right? And you pick the right tool for the job. So you want to kind of your profile to be, think of some successful technologies, right? Think about, I don't know, like say people who programmed Sonic for Sega, right? ID Soft video games, right? Do you know what programming language they used? No. Well, I do, right? But I mean, do you care what programming language they used? Probably not, right? Do you care what programming language was used by Jobs when he was working on iPhones? No, right? But he managed to create a product that had universal appeal, and this is where you want to you want to basically say, look, I'm just a very intelligent quant. I'm a very intelligent science and technology person. I have strong background in working with different technologies, right? So I'm not really, my beta to any one technology is very limited. That's what I would recommend.
What about the final project?
Yeah, well, the final project, I mean, you can pick something that is relevant to you, right? That's we are quite flexible, as long as it's actually, do we actually have a final project in QDC? We don't, I think. We have
It's
it in
just the
MLI.
MNI, isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
just the MLI.
I was going to say.
And that was a decision, because I think we had one before, and then we had to basically streamline the course, and we should teach them to trade in Sega assembly. Yes, Sonic. That's Sonic. It actually was written by a very strong developer, and that was the first time someone implemented this very realistic physics engine on the platform. But it's kind of, it's sort of. I don't want to kind of delve too much into games programming, but if you think about, actually, an interesting fact that David Silver, who managed to beat the game of Go, who managed to beat the last human champion in the game of Go, and introduced reinforcement learning, he came from games programming background. Right, he used to run a games programming studio. So you can see that this skill set is quite useful. In MLI, you had a touch of quantum computing. Yes, we do, and we introduced it quite deliberately. Any chance you might touch on quantum computing in QDC? Well, we didn't, because that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether it picks up. It's still a bit niche. We could. right? Or is there a QC specialized course up your sleeve at WBS? Well, it's a possibility. We could consider it. I don't know. Maybe we could consider it as an add-on or something like that. I'm not sure it's currently mainstream enough to merit inclusion in this course. MLI, yeah, I mean, because basically, when we were thinking about what to include in MLI, there were a few papers which showed the quantum advantage, right, in ML. So it was especially there was an interesting paper by IBM. I don't remember its title, but it showed that you can fundamentally compute the kind of things using quantum computers and solve the kind of problems that you cannot solve using normal compute. And it was like it was much more fundamental than just than complexity. It wasn't this kind of is it P, is it NP, is it quantum analogs of these. It was like, yeah, there is a quantum advantage. And that was, I think, that made enough noise for us to think, well, that's really big, and we should really do it as part of the MLI program. It's still, I would say, it's still not mainstream enough, so that I wouldn't say that like how many quant devs actually have that skill set. I would say it's less than 1% at this point in time. Right, it's less than 1%, and probably maybe 5% have heard of it and have used, the quantum programming, quantum computing toolkits. Maybe it's changing, but for now, that's our read on it.
These are great questions, by the way. So, any other questions? Okay. All right. So they normally last an hour, but I'm actually really pleased to say this has gone a good 15 to 20 minutes over time, which means that you've been, this has hopefully been very engaging for you, and the questions are great questions as well. So as I say, if any questions pop up, then please get in touch with us whenever you want, either by phone or by email. And we'll do everything we can to, clarify everything and anything about this program for you. I hope you found it useful, and I hope you found it somewhat enjoyable as well. I hope you've enjoyed Paul's question answering. I certainly have, and we'll hopefully see you very soon.
Thank you very much, guys.
Take care.
Take care.